You ever had a woman look you dead in the eye like you're everything? Then the next day she's gone cold, distant, unreadable. Texts slow down. Calls disappear. Her warmth turns into confusion. You think, did I do something wrong? But deep down, you know it was going too well. She wanted you. You felt it. She knew it. Then she vanished. This isn't about bad timing. This isn't about you being too much, or not enough. This is about something no one's told you. A truth most men never hear until it's too late. Comment below, I won't chase confusion. And get ready, because once you know what I'm about to show you, you'll never see her silence the same again. This message is for the man who's been loyal, consistent, real, for the one who shows up, who speaks his truth, and somehow always ends up watching her walk away. When he finally starts to matter. You didn't lose her. She got scared. And no one told you why. We live in a world where men are taught to stay silent, to bottle it up, to just move on when things fall apart. But you deserve more than just silence. You deserve understanding. You deserve answers. Today, I'll give you the answers. This isn't surface-level dating advice. This is the unfiltered truth behind why women push away the very men they want the most. It's not manipulation. It's not a game. It's fear. It's survival. And if you don't understand it, you'll keep losing women who were never meant to leave. This will change how you see women. And even more importantly, how you see yourself. Now that you're here, don't just watch. Listen. Every second matters. And if this message speaks to you, support the channel. Because when you do, you're not just helping yourself. You're helping thousands of men who've been confused, burned, and left in silence. Now let's begin. Number 1. Emotions expose her. She starts pulling away not because she doesn't care, but because caring starts to cost her something she spent years protecting. And that's the part no one talks about. See, when a woman begins to genuinely feel something for you, something real, something deep, something that starts to matter more than she expected, her behavior changes, not because she wants it to, but because the emotional current she's riding suddenly feels too strong, too raw, too risky. Up until now, it was easy. Jokes, messages, chemistry, attention. But when that invisible line is crossed, when she starts catching herself wondering if you're thinking about her too, when her emotions start slipping past her guard and into her heart, the fear comes, and not the kind you see in her eyes, the kind that wraps around her decisions, hijacks her logic, and whispers one thing: pull back now before you lose control. And that's the game changer right there. She isn't pulling away because of you. She's pulling away because of what you represent. You are now not just a man. You are now a potential pain. She's been here before, and the scars still live inside her. The tears she cried over someone who once made her feel the same way haven't fully healed. And even though she laughs, smiles, flirts, and tells herself this time it's different, when her heart starts racing faster than her head can keep up, her instincts slam the brakes. You've become a threat, not because you're toxic or unstable, but because you've touched a part of her that she thought she had buried under years of detachment, independence, and self-preservation. Every compliment, every moment you showed consistency, every time you didn't flinch, didn't judge, didn't play games, it broke down her armor. And for a woman who's been hurt by men who said the same words, gave the same affection, promised the same future, and left when it got real, that kind of emotional closeness feels more dangerous than loneliness ever did. The crazy part is, she might not even understand why she's pulling back. She might give you vague excuses, say she's just been busy, tell you she needs time to think, act like you're imagining things. But what's really happening is something primal. She feels exposed. Her walls are cracked. Her heart is speaking louder than her logic, and her emotional reflex kicks in to shut the gates before you get too close. It's a self-defense mechanism, one she learned the hard way, and unless you've lived through it, you won't recognize it for what it is. This is the part that hurts the most, because you were doing everything right, being real, being present, being calm, and suddenly you're left wondering what you did wrong. And the answer? Nothing. You simply activated a part of her that she's terrified to let anyone near again. She may not run completely. She may linger. Keep the connection alive just enough to keep the door open. But emotionally, she's retreating into the shadows of her past, reliving pain she never fully processed. She wants you, but she fears needing you. She likes you, but she fears loving you. She sees your strength, but she fears what it will do to her when she starts depending on it. And this is where your understanding must go deeper than surface-level behavior. Because if you chase her now, if you try to drag her out of that retreat with logic, demands, or more affection, you'll only push her further away, not because you're wrong, but because the pressure confirms everything she's afraid of. That connection leads to pain. That care leads to vulnerability. That love leads to loss. And so she retreats, because her emotions exposed her, and she wasn't ready for the truth they brought to the surface. Number 2. Wanting you scares her. She doesn't fear losing you. She fears wanting you, because wanting you means needing you, and needing you means giving you the kind of access that no man has ever handled with care. This is the part men don't see, and most won't understand until they've lived through it again and again, until they've met a woman who looks at them like a lifeline one day and avoids them like a threat the next. It doesn't make sense on the surface, and it never will, because what you're witnessing isn't a change of heart. It's a defense mechanism kicking in when her feelings start to outpace her control. See, wanting you requires her to admit that something in her life is now affected by someone else. That a man holds power not over her body, but over her peace. And for a woman who's survived betrayal, abandonment, dishonesty, or emotional inconsistency, that's not attraction, that's a trigger. Wanting you makes her vulnerable to the things she swore she'd never feel again. Disappointment. That's why she doesn't run when it's casual, when it's fun, when it's all light smiles and late-night calls with no weight behind them. But when she starts to imagine you in her future, when she hears your name, and it stirs something deeper than flirtation, when she catches herself replaying your words in her mind and wondering where this could go, that's when everything changes. Not because you became less, but because you became real. You became a variable she can't control, and every time in the past that happened, she paid the price. She remembers how it felt to give herself emotionally to a man who made her feel seen, only to be left unseen. She remembers the warmth of love turning cold without warning, the promises that came easy but broke hard, and the way she had to pick up her own pieces in silence. So when you come along, consistent, honest, grounded, it feels right, too right, and that's exactly when her fear whispers, "This will end like the last one." And that voice, it's louder than your reassurances, louder than your good intentions, louder than your track record. You're not fighting logic, you're standing in the shadows of her memories. That's why she starts acting different. That's why she gets distant when things go deep. It's not because she's cruel, it's because she's scared. Scared that if she lets herself fall, she won't be able to climb back out this time. Scared that if she opens up, she won't survive another collapse. You have to understand, she didn't grow up believing in fairy tales. She grew up watching women around her suffer. She watched relationships turn into regret. She saw love used as a weapon, and she learned early on that the only way to stay safe was to stay detached. So now, when you give her something real, she's confused. You trigger a war inside her between what she wants and what she fears. And no matter how calm you are, no matter how stable your presence is, it won't fix the fight she's having in her own head. So what does she do? She pulls back. She tells herself you're too good to be true. She looks for flaws where there aren't any. She convinces herself that she needs space, when really she needs safety. But here's what most men don't realize. You cannot convince a woman to feel safe. Safety isn't given by speeches. It's earned through consistency, through not flinching when she tests you, through standing your ground when she runs, not by chasing, not by begging, not by demanding clarity, but by understanding that her reaction isn't rejection, it's protection. It's her way of saying, I care more than I'm comfortable with, and I don't know how to handle that. And if you want to be the man who doesn't lose her, you need to be the man who doesn't lose himself when she retreats. You need to stop interpreting her fear as failure. Stop interpreting her withdrawal as disrespect. It's deeper than that. She's dealing with emotional trauma that you didn't cause but will feel the effects of. And if you start acting like every other man who took it personally, you'll become just another page in the same book she's been rewriting for years. You have to hold the line. That doesn't mean waiting around endlessly. It means standing in your truth without forcing hers. You keep living. You stay grounded. You focus on your mission. You let her come to terms with what you awaken in her, without making it about your ego. Because if she's worth your presence, she'll feel that difference. She'll recognize that you're not the man who needs her validation to feel whole. You're the man who offers security, not through pressure, but through presence. And eventually, when she sees that your strength doesn't come with expectations or emotional chaos, when she sees that you're not here to break her open, but to show her she's safe enough to breathe, she'll come back. Not because she needs to, but because she chooses to. That's the difference between a man who's just a chapter and a man who rewrites the ending. And if you've ever found yourself reacting instead of responding, chasing instead of standing firm, or losing yourself in a woman's emotional pullback, then the Stoic relationship blueprint was written for you. This isn't just a book. It's a code, a mindset shift, a quiet revolution for men who are done being confused by mixed signals and ready to take back control, not over her, but over themselves. It teaches you how to lead, not beg, how to attract without performing, how to be the grounded presence she respects, not the reaction she retreats from. And the best part? Once you get it, it's yours forever. This isn't a subscription, it's not a trial. It's a permanent blueprint you'll carry for life. You'll never again be blindsided by her distance. You'll see it, understand it, and know exactly how to move. Own it now, and the next time she pulls away, you won't chase. You'll lead. Click the link in the comments and grab your copy. Number 3. The pullback is protection. She doesn't pull away to hurt you. She pulls away to protect herself from the part of you that makes her feel seen. Because when a woman begins to feel like you might actually understand her, see through her defenses, and hold space for all the emotions she hides from the world, her instinct isn't to lean in, it's to recoil. You weren't just a guy she liked. You became someone who got too close to the truth, and that truth threatens the version of herself she spent years building to survive. She's not used to being met with calm when she gets emotional. She's not used to being heard without being judged. She's not used to a man not trying to fix her, but simply seeing her. And that kind of presence doesn't feel like love at first. It feels like exposure. Because when she starts to relax around you, when she starts to imagine your name beside hers in ways she never allowed herself to before, she's no longer in control. And that loss of emotional distance feels like danger, not comfort. Every time you show up when she expected abandonment, every time you respond with patience instead of pressure, every time you speak with clarity instead of charm, you break a pattern in her life. And breaking that pattern feels just as painful as the wounds it came from. That's why she pulls back. Not because you disappointed her, but because she doesn't know what to do with the version of you that doesn't match the blueprint of betrayal she was taught to expect. And so she returns to what she knows: distance. She shuts down, not because she wants you gone, but because staying open requires a level of emotional safety she has never truly experienced. And instead of learning how to live in that safety, she chooses the discomfort she's familiar with. See, when a woman pulls away, it's easy to assume it's about you, that you said too much, did too little, showed too much interest, or revealed too much intention. But the truth is, her retreat says far more about her emotional past than your actions in the present. You might have reminded her of what she once had and lost. Or worse, you might be giving her what she never believed was possible, and now she has no script to follow. She's not prepared to be loved in the way you're capable of loving her. So she does what wounded people do. She creates space, not because you crossed a line, but because you were getting too close to something she buried. That's why the pullback is never about rejection. It's about survival. Her pulling away is her way of buying time. Time to sort through the feelings she never gave herself permission to feel. Time to test whether your calm is real or just temporary. Time to decide if she can trust the stillness you bring into her chaos. But what most men get wrong is they meet that pullback with pursuit. They double down, demand answers, try to get back to the vibe they had just days before. And what they don't realize is that every act of emotional desperation reinforces her fear, that no man can be trusted to simply be still when she can't be, that every connection will eventually cost her peace. So she protects herself, not with walls, but with withdrawal. And the man who doesn't understand this will see her absence as a signal to fight harder. But the man who knows, he doesn't flinch, he doesn't retreat, and he doesn't react, because he understands that when a woman pulls away, she's not looking to be chased. She's looking to feel safe in the space she's creating. That's the paradox. She distances herself to see if you'll respect the distance, if you'll hold your frame, if you'll trust that her absence doesn't need to be filled with your presence, but with your consistency. You don't need to fix her fear, you just need to not feed it. That's protection in its highest form, not control, not pursuit, not pressure, but stillness. The kind of stillness that says, I'm not going anywhere, but I'm not chasing either. That's what separates a man she forgets from a man she remembers. That's what gives her the space to realize that pulling back from you costs her more than staying close ever did. And eventually, if she sees you haven't crumbled, haven't lashed out, haven't disappeared into resentment or neediness, she starts to believe, not in you, but in herself, in her ability to be around someone who doesn't require her to abandon herself to feel seen. And that's when she comes back. Not because you chased, but because you didn't. Because the pullback was never a test of how much you'd chase. It was a reflection of how much she needed to know she could return without punishment, without guilt, without chaos, just clarity. And the man who provides that clarity without words, without reaction, without need, that's the man who becomes unforgettable. Number 4. Your reaction is the real test. She may never say it out loud, and she may not even realize she's doing it, but the moment she starts pulling back, she's watching your every move. Not because she's looking for reassurance, but because she needs to know if the version of you that made her feel safe under calm skies is the same version that stands tall when things get uncomfortable, because what she's testing isn't your affection, your words, or your promises. It's your stability in the face of emotional chaos, and this is where most men fail, not because they're weak, but because they're unaware that everything she's doing is driven by a deeper need to verify that what she felt when she was with you wasn't a temporary illusion wrapped in charm. but the kind of presence that doesn't flinch when she becomes inconsistent, unpredictable, guarded, or even cold, because to her, that's the only real way she can believe you're different, and she doesn't test this with words. She tests it with distance, with confusion, with pulling energy away to see if yours collapses without hers, and this is where your entire relationship can pivot. Because if your identity depends on her attention, if your mood is dictated by her availability, if you lose your center the moment she stops being warm, you fail the only test that truly matters. Not to her, but to yourself. Because a man's strength is never revealed in the honeymoon phase. It's revealed in the friction, in the distance, in the moments where she's not as sweet, not as responsive, not as emotionally accessible. And how you handle those moments tells her everything she needs to know, not just about your capacity to lead, but your ability to protect. Because emotional security is not built in presence. It's built in pressure. And if you fold the first time she pulls away, you prove to her subconscious that your consistency was conditional, that your calmness had an expiration date, that your affection required validation, and what you thought was you fighting for the connection actually ends up looking like emotional weakness, because she doesn't need you to fight for her attention. She needs to feel that you don't need her attention to remain grounded, and if you can't offer that, you're just another man demanding energy from a woman who's already overwhelmed by her own, and you might think persistence proves love. But in her world, persistence without poise is pressure, and pressure doesn't feel like safety. It feels like the beginning of control, the same control she's fought against her entire life. So when you blow up her phone, when you demand clarity, when you show frustration at her retreat, you reinforce her belief that closeness always turns into expectation, and love always turns into obligation. And that's the real reason she walks. Because now she has to choose between keeping you or keeping herself, and she will always choose herself, not because she doesn't care, but because she's spent years trying to reclaim the parts of her that past men fractured by reacting instead of respecting her space. So if you truly want to pass the test, you need to understand that your job isn't to chase her back into comfort. Your job is to stay aligned with your values regardless of her behavior. Because when she steps away, she's not asking for a speech. She's asking for stillness. And when she creates space, she's not daring you to close the gap. She's watching if you fill it with insecurity or self-respect. And in that moment, how you show up teaches her more about your true nature than any text, gift, or plan you could ever offer. And the men who are unforgettable are not the ones who fight hardest for her attention. They are the ones who never needed it to stand tall, to speak with clarity, to act with principle, because when you remain composed while the ground shifts, she finally believes you are who you claim to be. And if you want her trust, her devotion, her emotional surrender, you have to show her that you don't fall apart when she does. And that starts with letting her retreat without making it about you, by focusing on your goals, your mission, your physical discipline, your mental clarity, your spiritual values. Because a man who has direction doesn't get lost when a woman becomes distant, and a man who has purpose doesn't crumble when he's not praised. And in a world full of men reacting to every fluctuation, the man who stays steady becomes rare, and in his rarity, he becomes irreplaceable. So don't chase the reconnection. Become the reason she respects herself more when she's around you, and if you can master that, you pass the test without even knowing it was one. Number 5. Not all signals mean what you think. The mistake most men make is assuming her shift in energy means it's over, because the moment she pulls back, slows her replies, seems distracted, or starts creating space, you begin to rewrite the story in your mind. You convince yourself she's moved on, found someone else, lost interest. But what you don't see is that most of the time, those signals you're interpreting as endings are actually symptoms of emotional overflow, not rejection. Because when a woman pulls back, it doesn't always mean she's letting go. Sometimes it means she's trying not to drown in a depth she didn't plan to feel. And the tragedy is that most men take her distance personally and react with fear, when the truth is, her shift often comes from wanting you more than she expected, and fearing what that means for her emotional control. And if you misread that shift, you sabotage something that wasn't broken. Because while you're obsessing over what message you missed, what moment you misstepped, what words you said wrong, she's fighting a battle inside herself between letting the connection deepen or pulling away before she gets consumed by it. And unless you've been the man who's loved a woman through her uncertainty, you won't recognize the difference between a withdrawal based on disinterest and a withdrawal rooted in protection. And this is where clarity becomes your greatest weapon. Not clarity from her, but clarity in yourself. Because when you stay grounded in your truth, in your presence, in your sense of value, you stop letting her emotional ebb and flow define your worth. And that shift changes everything. Because instead of chasing answers or demanding emotional consistency, you hold the frame. You let her come to you. You trust what was built before the retreat. Because if her connection with you was real, her pullback is a sign she's overwhelmed, not detached. But if you let your imagination run wild, if you start inventing betrayals that never happened, if you crumble the moment she needs to breathe, you lose not because she left, but because you abandoned yourself in the process. And that's the real tragedy. Not that she pulled back, but that you took it as a command to chase when it was really an invitation to trust. And if you've never had a woman come back softer, more open, more certain after being given space, then you've probably never given her space without turning it into punishment, because too many men think that stepping back means stepping away. But there's a difference between distance with dignity and emotional withdrawal out of fear, and a woman feels that difference in her bones. She knows when you're holding space versus giving up, and the more grounded you remain, the safer she feels exploring her uncertainty without losing the man who made her want to open up in the first place. So next time you feel her energy shift, don't rush to conclusions. Don't write yourself out of the story. Don't rewrite her behavior to fit your insecurities. Watch, wait, and remain rooted in what you know. And if she's worth your patience, she'll feel that steadiness and gravitate back, not because you pressured her, but because she realized what most women never get. A man who doesn't get shaken by her internal chaos. A man who doesn't need constant validation to know his value. A man who doesn't take her processing as rejection, but as part of the feminine experience of trust. And when you become that man, the one who can read between the lines without needing subtitles, who can hold peace without demanding her explanation, who can separate fact from fear, you win, not just her heart, but something deeper, her trust. And once she trusts you with her emotional process, she gives you the parts of her she's never let anyone else see, not because you forced it, but because you never flinched when she tried to test if you could handle the weight of her reality. If you've ever wondered why good men get punished for showing up while liars and manipulators get rewarded with loyalty, then ask yourself, how much longer will you keep guessing? How many more women will you chase just to lose yourself? How many times will you misread the same patterns because no one taught you the code? The Stoic relationship. Blueprint is that code. This ebook is not just for the man who's tired of the games. It's for the man who's done playing blind. It doesn't give you tricks. It gives you truth. The truth that sets you free from confusion, chaos, and regret. The truth that shows you how to become the man who never needs to chase again, because he knows. And once you have it, it's yours forever. No expiry, just clarity. So if you're ready to lead with strength, not emotion, comment the Stoic Blueprint below right now. Then like this video and subscribe, because every click helps one more man escape the pain you've already felt, and it could save him years of heartbreak. The link's in the comments. Don't wait. Grab it now, before you repeat the same cycle again.